Hi there, welcome to the Alpha Wave Trader week ahead. Could be a pretty interesting week, the way things are set up. I have been away on holidays the last couple of weeks, and pretty happily so, with the market just thrashing around in a volatile state, whipping out short-term traders. But the more we thrash around at the moment, the closer we're getting to the point where it's going to have its move. And right now, I think ultimately that move should be to the downside. But I just want to point out for you the key areas to keep an eye on, and why I think this is really quite an explosive moment where the market is currently. The last time I spoke to you a few weeks ago, we'd already had this sell-off, and we were sort of rallying back into this area, and I was saying to you, I'd set out the sell zones and buy zones of that range, and I gave you the levels around 29.50 to 29.90 odd. I said if the market gets up into there and turns back down, watch out. And we did end up getting to a high of around mid 2940s in that E-mini S&P 500, and we had a big down day. But you'll see it's hit the 200-day moving average, which is that line there, found support, and also hit the buy zone of that wave, and then we've had a sharp rally back to that point of control. So the setup is still the same. The thing I want you to focus on here is this indicator down the bottom, which is sort of my own calculations on the slope of the 40-day exponential, which is that one there, that black one, you can see, and the slope of the 10-day exponential, which is that blue one there, which is moving at a much faster pace. So looking at the slope of it, you can see that blue line there. Once that goes under the black line, that's just saying the slope of that 40-day exponential has turned down. So it's pointing down. And you'll see once it's pointing down all the way through this period, apart from a little, poking its nose above ground zero there, and then all the way through here, which is this whole big sharp sell-off, has been with that 40-day exponential pointing down. And then it's turned positive there, and you've got this big rally. And you can see it's turned negative there, and we've ended up having this big sell-off, and we've gone positive there, and we've had this big rally, and here we are with the 40-day exponential turning down. So that's, from that point of view, we're in a negative phase. And also the thing I want you to note is the way the 10-period exponential whips around that 40-day exponential. So you've got those moves within the trend where the market's flying around, but the ultimate trend is down. So the opportunities can be when you've had these big squeezes, and look, I'm often looking for opportunities once it's squeezed up that high and that 10-day exponential is very overbought and the 40-day exponential is pointing down. They're the points where you're interested in waiting for an opportunity to get short. And also, I'm looking at the Bollinger Bands. So you've got the one standard deviation Bollinger Band based on the 20-period exponential, simple, and the 2 standard deviation Bollinger Band above the 20-period simple. And you can see that's where the market has turned down from within the downtrend. So fast forwarding to where we are now, and you can see we've got the 1 and 2 standard deviation Bollinger Band there. So the market's rallied up into that area. And if it's turning back down, And you can see here with the 10 period exponential slope is at the moment, it's up because we've got a bit of a squeeze on. But the 40 period exponential is still pointing down. So if we get this failure again and the 10 period turns back down within this downtrend, that's when you're looking at the next wave in the move potentially occurring. So we're sort of, at that point where the momentum can shift down rapidly, but we haven't arrived there right at the moment. The momentum is still up from the point of view of that 10 period exponential. So if we go in and have a look at it closely, and we look at the buy and sell pivots, you can see the most recent pivot on a daily is actually a buy pivot because we've got the low price there on that candle. Then we have the close above the low, that lowest price on that daily candle, on that current little sell-off that we saw in the last few weeks. So actually on the daily, it's saying up. So until we get the daily sell pivot confirmed, you've got to be a bit wary, and the buying support can actually come in down around this area where we are. We've opened up around 29.07 today, opening low on the back of the tariffs coming into play between US and China. But it is selling off into what is support on the daily. So there is still a chance you're going to see a squeeze up into that sell zone area, but that is an area where if we get the daily sell pivot from there, that's when I'm getting pretty excited on seeing great risk reward opportunity to get short the market. Now you're running away if this market breaks out to new all-time highs. I mean, there is no doubt that I don't want to be short this market, and that might be on good news on the back of China, whatever. So that still can happen. But just with the current setup, the way it is in the short term, if we get the daily sell pivot, which would be a close below the low of that highest candle, and that price is actually 29.13. So if after tonight's session it has closed below that 29.13, you do have the daily sell pivot. It is starting to turn back down, and it's gotten so close to this sell zone that might be it, and we might see this market head off to the downside again. And there's lots of dominoes set up beneath the market, so there's lots of stop losses lined up that will feed into other stop losses, and that's when you can get a real move on, and breaking below that 200-day moving average. When it ultimately does break, it'll happen so fast that you won't be able to get on it. So the opportunity is really in trying to get on at the best level, which is hopefully within that sell zone, waiting for the sell pivot. And then there's another calculation I make, which I'm not going to tell you, which gets you the really good entry levels. And that is where the opportunity lies. And then you've got a stoppie above that all-time high, and you can see whether this market is going to cascade to the downside, and ultimately breaking that around that 2700 area. Well, that gets pretty dangerous, and there could be some really big downside in the market from there. So it's a pretty interesting dynamic right now. I haven't got the confirmation in the short term to be jumping on this. I'd actually like to see it open weak today and then confuse everyone and actually rally and really squeeze everyone out up into this zone, and then have the false break, of the high of that structure, and then watch out and that would look like a ABC. I'm sure many of you know the ABC structure. And I'll just point that out for you very quickly. You'll see in the past when we've had a big uptrend, and then we've got the A, B, then C leg, and once it turns back up above the A leg, that is when you can have an opportunity to get on board. So if I look at that, and then once it closes back above A, that is when the market can really shoot higher. And same in reverse, we've got the downside here, we've got the A leg, the B leg, which has had a couple of goes. Then if we have a C leg, which breaks above that high, which then ultimately fails without taking out the all-time high, that will be the ABC. And that's the C. And that would really add impetus to the overall structure, having a setup like that. So it's going to be interesting to watch this week. It might still thrash around. Watch out for the potential daily sell pivot tonight, which could give an opportunity. But as we've seen, once these daily sell pivots have happened, I mean, that's been a 100-point move to the downside. So it can be pretty big. But you do have to wait for that confirmation, because currently the daily most recent pivot is actually a buy pivot. So you have to be careful that there could be buying support around this point. So it's getting close. Everything is still lined up for more downside, but it's just not at the point yet where you are saying it's go time. And if you do see the market up in this area and then a failure, that's when you're probably going to see the best opportunity within this current down wave. And beware of what can happen once it does turn back down. It can be a very rapid move to the downside. All right, well, that's enough. I've gone on for long enough. I was going to look at oil, which is still looking pretty bearish, but I think that's enough time today. All right, I'll come back with more next week.